One of the things we mentioned in the podcast was that the dealer Jacques Seligmann wanted to found a museum of fakes, which is a fascinating subject. And in fact, it must have had some legs because it was picked up in the press, and there were a few accounts of this museum of fakes, but also mocking the idea for the museum of fakes. A 1913 Art News article explained, Mr. Seligmann proposes to build little by little a museum of fakes as a warning to art patrons and for the purpose of showing them how dangerous it is to purchase works of art except from financially responsible persons and of unblemished reputation. He proposes to place this museum and his knowledge at the disposal of serious art patrons and to enlighten them, if they so desire, about the genuineness of their possessions. And at that time, there was tremendous concern among reputable dealers about fakes being sold, and on the part of American collectors about fakes that were flooding the market. So this concern for authenticity was extremely important. And Seligmann was particularly concerned about fake Renaissance bronzes. That was something that became very popular to collect. But it was also an area in which there were a number of pastiches and fakes. So at the time of Morgan's death, his son Jack was in contact with Seligmann to inquire about any purchases, cancel anything that had been paid for and not delivered. But Seligmann had mentioned that he had several bronzes that he believed to be fakes, and he wrote to Jack, "Your father knew very well that he was deceived because, if I remember well, he bought these articles 6 years ago, and he never wanted to take delivery of them." So obviously it didn't faze Pierpont Morgan a great deal if a small percentage of his purchases turned out to be dubious. So it's very interesting to put that idea of fakes and forgeries in the context of how Morgan regarded or probably regarded these purchases. And we don't have a very clear record of Morgan's thoughts on about anything because he was not a great writer. He wasn't somebody who recorded his opinions regularly. So it's very hard to get to know. But in this case, it seems that being aware that some of these acquisitions weren't right and not taking delivery of them, he was really unconcerned about their ultimate fate. But I've been gathering research material on the subject of the Museum of Fakes because I think it really says something critical about that moment near the close of the Gilded Age, about connoisseurship, about the art market, about the movement of objects and this collecting of objects, and concerns about not only what was authentic, but who could determine what was authentic. How did the work of dealers dovetail with the work of scholars, and how is that reflected in the valuation of these objects and the opinions of their authenticity? So it's a riveting subject, and I'm hoping to do more on that front because I think Seligmann himself is a compelling character, and certainly the idea of trying to educate the public as well as art patrons about the issue of fakes gives a new wrinkle to it in the age of public museums.